You're gonna have to do an episode on harvesting lazy rice now. Okay, Tim, but first I want to talk about how do you harvest lazy rice? All right, Bruce, I'll get to that in the future. Looking forward to seeing how you harvest lazy rice. Wow, okay, I hear you, Rod Baby and Steve T. For those of you just tuning in, these comments are referring to last week's episode when I introduced to you our lazy rice and mentioned that it would slow down our harvest operation when cutting. Well done, but a bit more info on just why the cutting is tougher. Right. Thanks, Stephen. Good question. So, how do you harvest lazy rice? That would seem to be a problem. Yes, Patrick, it is a problem for a few reasons. All right, guys, let's get into it. How to harvest down rice or lodged rice, or as we like to refer to it here, lazy rice. Okay, now stay with me here. The first important thing to think about is harvest moisture versus storage moisture. This is essentially a percentage of how dry the rice kernels are. Optimal harvest moisture is 19 to 20%, whereas storage moisture is 14%. An expense to the farmer at the drying and storage facility is taking the rice from harvest moisture to storage moisture. Higher the harvest moisture, higher the expense. Taking this into consideration, understand that the last thing we want is outside moisture like morning dew to affect the moisture reading of the freshly cut and delivered rice. A drop of water could bump the reading up a few percentage points. We'd rather the sun and wind dry the dew for us, not pay the drying facility to do it. And all this is one problem with lazy rice. Since it's down, there's no airflow through it. It takes a lot longer for the morning dew to dry. It could take an hour longer and prevent us from entering the fields until mid-morning. Unfortunately, this isn't the most efficient use of the day, right? That's the first thing. Second is how we need to approach cutting the rice with our harvest combines. Do you have to run the combine slower because the head has to be low to the ground to pick up the rice? Per person, that's exactly right. Let's take a look at the header. Now, in order to pick up this lazy rice, we will need to keep our header much lower than normal, but ideally, we'd like our reel to do most of the work. We will need to speed up the reel at a fast pace so that it will pick up the rice and it combs into the header to be cut by the sickle blades. This will be especially challenging when the rice is laying away from the combine. I used to hate harvesting down rice. You have to be on your game to have the header low enough to pick up the rice, but not too low to jam the sickle in the dirt. I hate it too, Jeff. Normally, with standing rice, we could cut 8 inches off the ground. Now, in many cases, we need to cut 1 inch off the ground. Obviously, this is extremely precarious because one wrong move or a mound of dirt, you could start cutting mud and this could clog the harvester combine separator components or damage the header. Remember, that reel is spinning super fast. Matt, keep your header out of the mud and clear your screens daily. True, Tony. It's important to check your screens because when harvesting, it's the screens that are the last opportunity to catch any grains of rice before they're blown out the back of the combine with a straw. If the screens are clogged with mud, you could lose some crop. Also, mud in the screens only got there because they went through the combine. This tells you that you should clean out the internal parts of the machine to allow for better grain and straw separation and prevent yield loss. Or perhaps worse, clogging the entire machine with mud and straw. It would take about half a day to clean out. Do you find that down rice has significantly more losses to pests? Well, Edward, actually, yes. Ducks and geese feel more comfortable landing on down rice because they can stand right on top of it. A large gaggle of geese could eat half your crop in a few days. Knowing this, we need to cut fast, and when we have our headers low in that precarious position, being rushed can lead to cutting mud, skipping over rice, and breakdowns. Hello, Matt. Sorry for the down crop. How much will you lose per acre compared to a standing crop? Well, Navdeep, we certainly lose a little bit because sometimes the reel won't be able to lift the plant up off the ground. Also, with that reel spinning so fast, we might knock some rice on the ground even before it's cut. And if the field wasn't drained well, we could create muddy ruts next to and higher than the rice, making it impossible to cut, forcing us to leave a strip of rice. Now, we have harvested a few fields and it looks like rather than 100 sacks an acre, we're getting around 93 sacks or so. About a 7% loss compared to prior years. But this might not only be due to the loss while cutting lazy rice, but also a result of what made the rice lazy in the first place. Perhaps the hot heat scorched the plant during the reproductive phase and caused blanks, or rice hulls that did not fill with the milky-like substance that would later form a rice grain. You're right on the money with the heat. Our rice did the same. Everyone cutting says yields are down about 10%. Thanks, Chris. Though unfortunate, I think every farmer here in California is going to have to get accustomed to seeing dips in their yields this year, and there will be a lot of rice on the ground. Hopefully, nothing detrimental. Well, you may not get a clean of harvest that you would like, but the ducks and geese will thank you for it. There's no such thing as wasted rice in the sense of it just rotting in the field. By February, the grinds of ducks and geese will make it so you would be hard-pressed to find a kernel of rice left. Crowman, this is true and a very positive outlook on the situation. I appreciate that, and you're totally correct. Once we cut the rice and get it into the storage bins, the ducks and geese and other migratory birds are more than welcome to take root in our rice fields throughout the winter, and millions will. Slower harvest, but profitable is all that matters. I'm sure you guys will do fine. This is true, Guamich, and so far, we are doing just fine. Nice video, loved it. Thanks, Spaceman209, and thanks to all of you who commented and were so interested in how we harvest lazy rice. I really enjoyed this collaborative episode. I want to continue with a special episode next week. Here's a tease. Do you know what this piece of equipment will do? We're going 360 degrees VR inside the cab. We'll be riding along together. I'll explain more about harvesting rice, and I want to answer more of your questions about anything. So let me know down in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. I really enjoyed these lazy rice episodes. Give me a thumbs up if you did too, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, take care.